I'm male 17. My dad, A, male 45, got remarried a year ago to his new wife, Joyce, female 44. My bio mom abandoned me and my dad when he got into a severe accident. He used to work as an interstate trucker and was involved in a pileup, no fault of his own. Due to his actions, a few people were saved, but my dad could never walk again. While my bio mom tried to stay with us after he was hospitalized, she chose herself over her husband and kid, walking out on us. Since then, it's just been me and my dad for the most part. I was 12 years old when dad was taken out of the hospital, and I learned to help him and take care of him. We didn't have a lot of money and couldn't afford a caregiver. As soon as I turned 14, we enrolled under CDPAP so I could bring in some extra money while taking care of my dad. Things were always tough, but my dad never defined himself by his disability and always tried to be the best father possible for me. Around the time he met Joyce, Dad also got a new job working as a freight broker, which made our living situation a lot more comfortable. However, due to the fact that we'd run through almost all of our savings, Dad and I still lived pretty frugally to save up for my college. Joyce, Dad's new wife, was initially supportive of this choice, but she started building up more and more resentment for our frugality the longer the relationship went on. Dad had made it pretty clear that he didn't have the means to provide for luxuries at the moment, and if she wanted something extravagant, she needed to fund it herself. Joyce said that she was cool with this and began selling stuff on Etsy and was actually making a pretty decent bank. This was her way of earning money for the things she liked. The thing is, Dad still provided for rent, groceries, and utilities, while my CDPAP money helped with his medical expenses. The only thing is, we could never stretch for our wants except every now and then. Due to Joyce moving in with us after the marriage, I had a little extra time to spare in the evenings, and I decided to pick up a part-time job so I could get some real-world experience and save up for some non-essential things I wanted. A gaming PC, a Nintendo Switch, and stuff like that. I started working at a local mom and pop store as a shelf stocker. The owner, a sweet old man, paid me pretty decent wages and made them out to checks made out to cash. And I stored them all until I was ready to buy everything in one go. It was kind of a psychological thing, I won't lie. I wanted to have the satisfaction of having saved up enough to buy everything in one go. However, on the last Friday of my temp job, I went to pick up my mail and saw that it was missing. At first, I simply thought the owner had forgotten to mail it to me, and I called him and asked about it. However, he insisted that he had sent the mail. A little confused, I thought maybe Dad or Joyce had kept the check in my stash since I had been very open with both of them about my goal, and they knew which drawer I kept my checks in. However, when I went up to my room, I saw that not only was the check not there, but my entire stash was missing. I was panicking at this point and knew that somebody would have had to move them. I didn't think there was any ill will behind it, though, and I called Dad and Joyce to the kitchen to explain the situation. I could tell that Dad had no idea what was going on and was just as concerned as me. This was the first time I had the time and freedom to do a job that wasn't being his caretaker, and he was proud of the independence I had gained. This meant as much to him as it did to me. Joyce, though, was acting hella shifty. When I pushed her on it, she admitted to having cashed the checks to her account since she wanted to buy some stuff on sale and didn't have the money to buy it at that moment. It was like $800 and worth of money that she borrowed without asking me. I was so annoyed that this was a massive red flag from her. I responded to this in a very passive-aggressive tone, quipping, "Next time you want to take someone's money, at least have the decency to ask first, Joyce." This seemed to light a fuse in her, and Joyce went on a super entitled rant about how I was only able to earn this money because she spends the evening making dinner for my dad, who never pulled his weight anyways. She said a lot more hurtful things about how my dad wasn't a capable person and how she was sacrificing so much just to be with him. She claimed that she also deserved a good life and that my lack of sharing was ruining that for her. I was so angry at her that I couldn't say anything. I just went up to my room and slammed the door, after shouting at her, "I better have my money back before I call the cops on you." The next morning, Joyce was giving me the cold shoulder, and I could tell that she had fought with Dad too. I spoke to Dad in private and asked him what he felt about the whole situation. He was devastated and felt like his relationship wasn't going to survive. Joyce showed her true colors about Dad's disability the day before, and it wasn't something he was willing to put up with. They had broken up, and Dad and I had moved out of the apartment the very next day and were now living on our own. There was going to be a divorce, and I was going to stick to my guns about calling the cops on Joyce if she didn't give me my money back. Yesterday, though, I got a call from her on my cell phone where she opened up about her spending problem and told me that her Etsy business had been dead for a while. She needed the $800 from me to pay off her huge credit card bills, and that's why she drove herself to such extreme measures. I stood up for my dad, though, and told her if that was the case, she had hundreds of ways to borrow money from me instead of pocketing it first and telling me later. However, she did end up making me feel really guilty about pressing charges against her, and I'm delaying it right now. WIBTA? If I took it to the police? I know she's a bad person, but should I trust her to pay me back? Update 1. The divorce has taken a messy turn because of Joyce's insistence that she was forced to become a primary caregiver. She wants a significant amount of alimony from us due to her debt problem, and we're doing our best to combat that. Dad spoke to me about bringing the police down on her head about the money situation as a way to increase pressure on her for her trashy behavior. Outside of the divorce, we've kind of settled back into our lifestyle as before, and I had to leave my job to care for Dad. However, we're thinking of using part of his increased income to get a live-in nurse that could take care of Dad. I mean, I would go to college soon, and he'll be alone. It seems like the best possible setup, and hopefully we won't be bled dry by alimony for that to happen. Joyce, despite fighting the divorce like a madman, is also using her free time to try and win Dad back. I don't know why she's playing both fronts, but I guess she either needs the money from alimony or the stability of living with Dad to make herself financially sound. She's been apologizing profusely about the things she said that night and swears that she didn't mean it, but neither Dad nor I believe her BS. Like, how does she think she can fight for a divorce while trying to woo my dad back? That woman needs help for real. Update 2. The divorce got settled, mostly in our favor. Joyce will get alimony, but nowhere near the extravagant amount she was demanding. We'll be able to afford a nurse for Dad, and I also read all of your comments about the Medicare benefits we can take on. Thank you for your help, everyone. I've been struggling with all of this mentally and physically, but my dad is super important to me, and I want to power through this to give him the peace of mind he deserves about this situation. I never want him to feel like he's a burden on me, and it's clear that the breakup with Joyce took a toll on him. He was dumped for being disabled once, and he had to dump someone for not respecting his disability this time. Either way, he didn't deserve it. I hope that we can get through all of this together. Update 3. I forgot to update you all about my money. I got it back. I did talk to the cops about it, and it seemed to have spooked Joyce because she transferred $800 to my dad the very next day. I'm not exactly going to be using it for the same reasons I had before, but I'll keep it safe as extremely hard-earned money. From Dad's mutual social circle with Joyce, she had to file for bankruptcy and has taken on 2 jobs to make sure she can pay off her debts. It turns out that all of her money was spent on expensive clothes, makeup, and shoes. That's the only reason she's struggling financially. I think she should sell off her luxuries and get her life back on track, but that's just me, LOL. Dad is doing well with the new nurse, and he's working super hard in his new role. He's on track for a promotion and will finally be a little less worried about things like rent and groceries. NTA by any means. Kid, I'll say this straight. You're too forgiving if you think her debts are your responsibility. She's financially irresponsible. It's as simple as that. Not only that, her comments about your dad are downright ableist, too. IMO, your father rushed into this relationship without seeing her true colors, and this incident revealed them to you, too. NTA, unless the entire responsibility of taking care of your father was forced onto Joyce without her being aware of the division of work in the household. You do admit that her being a part of the family gave you extra time to take up a job, but at the same time, her actions are not justified in any way at all. If Joyce was forced into being a caretaker, then I'd say ESH. Next story. I own and run a bakery. I was sick of working a job with long hours with no thanks for it. I baked whenever I was off and sold it sometimes, and it took off. After being miserable for years and long discussions with my husband, we decided I should at least try and follow baking full time. I did this for a year and I had relative success, but could not keep up with the demand of just selling from out of the house. It was a huge gamble, but we decided to open a bakery by renting out a retail unit and investing our life savings. It finally paid off, and after 5 years, it's a successful small business and we've actually made our money back. I run a small shop with 6 staff and I am a lot happier. My bakery has a dining area for customers. We do the standard treats like cakes, etc., but also morning rolls, sandwiches. I have also hosted local events in conjunction with local groups. For example, stuff like holding knitting nights, crafting nights, etc. I'll either stay open a little later or allow them specific time slots. I do this all for free, as it's a space for people to enjoy something and meet people, and they always buy cakes and treats, so it's not hurting anybody. Basically, if it's reasonable, I don't mind holding events or promoting specific events via flyers or stuff, but I will not let other people sell in here. My bakery is solely there to sell things from my bakery, and I do not wish to have other businesses trying to solicit sales from within mine. My sister has got into making crystals and jewelry. She's not having much luck and has told me it is her destiny to do this after taking some classes. Anyway, she has asked if she can promote her business within my cafe. She wants to show samples and try and get some sales. I told her no, and she says I'm a hypocrite as I let other people host things in my bakery. I told her they are local events to bring the community together. Most often people who are lonely, and that if I ever promote or support a local cause or business, it's by displaying flyers inside or over social media or something. None of this involves them selling stuff from my bakery. I also emphasize that the hobby groups only buy food sometimes and they come with crafting items or stuff to meet with friends. Also emphasize my belief in supporting local businesses by displaying adverts for them, but there's a difference between doing that and allowing them to sell in my premises. She says I'm a heartless a-hole who is not willing to help out another local business owner and advance her dream. My husband thinks she is delusional. My parents are on my back asking me to break my rule just once so my sister can reach more potential customers. Edit. I did offer to display a poster flyer for my sister if she had one to promote her, but she refused. I don't know if it's relevant, but she quit her job as a lawyer to follow this dream. She was a very successful one, but said she was miserable working her cases and was willing to sacrifice the pay for her happiness. I do love and support her trying to make a career change. I just don't want her selling in my premises. She's 42, by the way, and I'm 39. Perhaps there's a little bit of resentment. She's trying to do what I did and she isn't having success, but I don't know. Edit 2. I don't know if it's relevant, but my sister worked in criminal law. Very well paid job, and she was extremely successful at it, but the cases were very heavy sometimes and it drained on her. She's also trying to launch a legitimate business, not an MLM, I don't think. I think she just wants to try and make a crafting business that stemmed from liking the classes she took, run by a legitimate local hobby group. I also did not ask her for any legal advice related to my business, as it's a completely different field to what she has experience in. NTA, as a potential customer walking into a bakery, I would view having someone try to pressure me into buying unrelated items would be a huge turnoff. There may also be some regulatory concerns. Where I live, you would need a different business license to operate as a bakery than you would need to sell arts and crafts retail. NTA, business and family shouldn't mingle, IMO. I also don't see a connection between crystals, jewelry, and a bakery. People entering a bakery are most likely not there for shopping for jewelry. Next story. I'm 29, female. My family consists of me, my mom, stepdad, and his 4 sons. Everyone has partners. This story concerns the oldest son, George, 32, and his partner, Francesca, 30. In our family, I host most of the family gatherings because my house is big enough to accommodate everyone staying over. Now, I don't particularly enjoy hosting. The cost is astronomical. It takes a long time to plan and it's quite stressful. However, I have no problem doing it and I know that everyone enjoys it and I certainly prefer being at home. There are upsides, but my point is hosting is not something I jump at the chance to do. This year, however, Francesca asked if they could host Christmas. Nobody was keen on this as their house is very small, no one would be able to stay over, so a good chunk of the day would be spent driving, so there would be no drinking for some. The kitchen is tiny, so cooking for so many people wouldn't be simple, and they don't have a table large enough to accommodate us all. Despite all this, on the spot, no one could think of a polite way to say no. So we all sort of went along with it. A few days ago, Francesca sent round a group text asking if everyone would be all right bringing something to Christmas. A food dish of some sort, as their oven wasn't large enough to cook everything from scratch, and if we all brought something to warm up, that would be easier. Later on, in our family group chat, parents and siblings only, my other step-sibling said it would have been better if I hosted Christmas. Even George agreed and said Francesca was totally stressed out about the planning. At this point, my mom suggested maybe I should take it over since that would take the stress off everyone and save them all a drive. Everyone jumped on the idea and practically begged me to do it. George said he'd talk to Francesca about it since everyone else was in agreement, and I said okay. I heard nothing more about it until last night, when Francesca sent me a long message and she was furious. She said I should have refused hosting when asked because I knew how important it was to her, which I didn't. She accused me of ruining her chance to finally be part of the family and of lobbying to host Christmas so that I could embarrass her, which is not true. I tried to explain to her that I was just trying to make everything easier for everyone and that I didn't offer. I was asked. But it was a bit vague because I was trying not to throw everyone else under the bus. Eventually, she just stopped replying. I really thought I was at least saving Francesca and everyone else a bit of stress, but a couple of my friends say I should have let her sink or swim on her own, since she was so adamant about hosting. So AITA? Edit. I'm seeing a lot of comments about the actual dinner, RE hosting and cost, so just thought I'd clarify. I've only started hosting the last few years. My mom and stepdad hosted and paid for every family gathering for over a decade, and had I said no to doing it this year, they would be. The cost of hosting Christmas is large, yes, but it's not an insurmountable financial burden, and I'm not being taken advantage of by hosting. My parents have done it in the past. Extended family from abroad as well. It's not an unequal thing. Regarding Francesca co-hosting at my home, this was not something I'd ever encountered until today. We normally have events catered or partially catered, but a number of you suggested Francesca could come and cook at my home, as that would allow her some hosting, and that's certainly something I will consider discussing with her and George. NTA, but her husband is, and so is she. He should have managed to talk to her and confirm with you whether to go ahead or not. If she wasn't comfortable, he should have said so and pushed back on your hosting. No good deed ever goes unpunished, OP. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.